Hello guys, we are going to look at nervous and hormonal control of digestion. So remember, for digestion to proceed, we need secretions like saliva, bile, pancreatic and gastric juices. So it means there is a certain way how God made our bodies to regulate the secretion of these juices. So let's first look at the secretion of saliva. So remember, the salivary glands are three in our body. That is sublingual and the submandibular gland. So, saliva secretion is mainly controlled by two types of reflex actions. That is the simple unconditioned or inborn reflex and the conditioned reflex. So the conditioned reflex involves when you are seeing food or when you are just thinking about food and causes the secretion of saliva, and it operates in the same way as the simple unconditioned reflex. So what happens in the simple unconditioned reflex or the inborn reflex? In the buccal cavity, we have the tongue. Now the tongue has the taste buds which are stimulated when the food is present, and they fire impulses because beneath the taste buds we have the sensory neurons which have their way to the brain. When they reach the brain integrates this and sends impulses which travel along the motor neuron to the salivary glands. And this causes them to secrete saliva, which is rich in the digestive enzyme, and that enzyme is called tyrine or salivary amylase. So gastric juice secretion, it is in three phases. That is the nervous phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. In the nervous phase, mere seeing food or smelling food and the taste of food when the food is still in the mouth triggers the gastric juice production. So upon these events, the brain integrates the stimuli and fires an impulse to the stomach via the vagus nerve. So the gastric glands are going to be stimulated to secrete gastric juice. And remember, this is done before the food reaches the stomach. So the stomach walls are going to be prepared to receive the food which is coming from the buccal cavity. In the gastric phase, this phase occurs when the food is present in the stomach. We are having nervous and hormonal control. So remember, the stomach walls are having stretch receptors. They are capable of stretching. So when the food is presented there, the walls are going to stretch. Let me say it's going to bulge, and as it bulges, the stretch receptors are going to fire an impulse, and this impulse is not going to go to the brain. It goes to the mesenus peroxus, which is found in the submucosa. So this in turn is going to send an impulse to the gastric gland. And when it sends impulse to the gastric gland for it is going to produce gastric juice, which is having enzymes like pepsinogen and prorenin. So this one is a form of nervous control. And also having hormonal control of gastric juice production. Remember, the stomach walls are having special endocrine cells, and these cells are found in the mucosa. As the stomach stretches, it causes the endocrine cells to produce gastrin hormone. Since the cells are endocrine, the hormone is secreted in blood, which travels to the gastric gland. And when it reaches the gastric gland is stimulated to produce gastric juice, which is rich in hydrochloric acid. So let's look at the intestinal phase, and this is the last phase of controlled digestion. And this takes place in the small intestine. The chyme, which is formed in the stomach due to presence of hydrochloric acid, is going to be acidic, and the small intestines work in alkaline pH. So when the acidified chyme enters and makes contact with the walls of the duodenum, it triggers the duodenum to have both nervous and hormonal responses. So the impulses which are going to be from the brain, they are going to inhibit secretion of gastric juice. So the submucosa of the small intestine has special cells which are going to secrete CCK and secrete. These two hormones are vital. Secrete, it stimulates the secretion of hydrogen carbonate ions, and it's going to make the pancreatic and the bile alkaline. So they're going to favor, or they're going to provide alkaline medium for the enzymes in the small intestine. CCK stimulates synthesis of digestive enzymes by the pancreas. It also causes the contraction of the gallbladder to release bile into the duodenum.